I'm joined today by Pete Tseronis, founder and CEO of Dots and Bridges. He was in government for 25 years and a two-time federal CTO. And Pete, you're an all-around guy. Everybody needs to get to know you because you connect people. Just thank you for joining me here today.
Hey, Jeremy, I'm fired up. I appreciate it. And it is my first official ask to do a podcast, and I couldn't be more excited, and we'll see how this goes. I hope I do a good job on this side of the mic.
Oh, fantastic. Well, so here's how we'll start. Tell everybody who don't know you more about your background, where you're from, who you are, what you do.
Yeah, I appreciate that because my journey has really been formed and informed by so many people, and my journey. It's a journey we all have individually. So, Washingtonian native. I was born in Philly, hung out for about a year and a half, moved down here, down here with the family. Raised in Washington D.C. in the suburbs of Montgomery County. Grew up Catholic school and went to Archbishop Carroll High School in Washington, D.C. And then that took me up to Villanova University, where I studied communications. Came out in '89. Wasn't sure what the world had in store for me, but I was fortunate to end up at the Pentagon as an intern and had a little jaunt there, and then went to school at night at Johns Hopkins University and was fortunate to spend 25 years or so in government. But during that, quick and dirty from a professional standpoint, where I came from, I've got 4 incredible kids. I'm married to Betsy, who's got a Pittsburgh pedigree, which is a great town. 2 boys, girl, boy, and an Australian Labradoodle named Phineas Maximus Tseronis. I am Greek by last name. I was raised Catholic, but I've got my big fat Greek wedding sort of experience that to this day I carry with me. I'm very proud of that heritage that my father imparted and made sure that we understood, and God rest his soul. I have a piece of that in me. So baklava, my yaya and papu, and Greek Easter has always been a part of my life. But it's been a great run, and I'm 54 in about a week. And I hope that I continue to build on this story that I've been fortunate to, have written to date.
Wow. So what, in that journey, how did you end up getting into the IT field? Did you make a distinct decision, or did you fall into it? How'd that work out for you?
Yeah. It was during that time when I ended up at the Pentagon, and it was 1991. And I was there when the internet work was being developed,
right? The
internet work. And the day I typed in www.espn.com and actually on a terminal saw sports news, I thought I was in heaven. I wanted to be a sports broadcaster when I came out of school, and I didn't realize that I probably should have gone somewhere and really studied journalism, but I figured, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. But there I was, and that's what prompted me to go back to school and earn my master's degree at Johns Hopkins in telecommunications. I actually wanted to learn how the internet worked. And as you well know, when I came out, Klinger-Cohen had passed, the chief information officer became a thing. And I tell folks, that's what I figured, that's what I'm going to be. There's my path. And I love the government, and I'm going to do that. While I never became a CIO, by the time I was at the end of my tenure at the Department of Education, I was a CTO. And then at Energy, I was fortunate to carry that passion for being a technology officer over to that agency. But one of the things, Jeremy, that really informed my interest in, or should I say, I took my education at Johns Hopkins to another level, was while I was going through school, the internet was just booming and technology was evolving, and the stuff I was learning in books was like outdated every semester, it seemed.
Right.
So when I came out, I wanted to apply it, and the government was an incredibly fertile ground for me. And at some point I became a evangelist of sorts on these topics, worked with the ACT-IAC communities and some of the nonprofits, and really honed a bit of my skill, I guess, to speak and articulate. And that's what's led me to where I am today. But never did I ever think I was the smartest guy in the room, because I'm just very curious. And there are too many smart people that I learn from, and that helps me become a bit of a translator of tech to the layperson. So So I was geeking out for a bit when I ran a data center for 10 years with incredible folks from the systems integrator community. But I felt I needed that credibility to one day be able to talk about it like we're doing right now.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I think this is one of the things I've learned as I've done interviews for this podcast and gotten to know people, that what we do within the IT field, there's so many avenues. It doesn't have to be that heavy technical, geeking out on, I know how to do these engineering things, or I know how to write software. The salespeople know a ton, right? The leadership needs to know a ton. We all are participating in this larger community and helping try to drive innovation, hopefully in the right direction. And that's something you certainly help with ACT IAC. I've seen, right, helping us to keep our eyes on the ball and not get distracted by what are we trying to get accomplished here, what are we trying to say. So, I mean, so you've had a varied career, and I'm with you on the whole. The technology was changing just as fast. I was in the Air Force, and the Air Force couldn't even teach us. They couldn't build a school fast enough. They sent us to learn at colleges, because at least the colleges were a little bit faster than the military is at designing courses. What would you change today, though? Something we're doing in IT today, that if you, Pete, they came to you, Pete, and said, hey, you have all the power to make this change within the IT community and how we do this one thing that kind of agitates you, maybe, or you think we should do better. What might that be? I mean, some people have told me, things like the way we hire people or whatnot. But what would that be for you?
Great question. I actually love that question, because to me, as a technologist like yourself, Jeremy, who I have, again, deep respect for, and you have credibility, we're in a very saturated world. We're in a clouded and crowded world. And by cloud, I make a reference to cloud computing, but there's more tech than we need. And I think, as I like to impart, dots and bridges, connecting dots, building bridges. I didn't retire from government. I didn't leave government to go be some extension of a business development or sales or marketing individual, because I honestly didn't know how to do that then. And I'd say that folks have, decades of experience on it with me. I only know how to share and articulate and convey, or as I like to say, educate, inform, and enlighten in a manner that I'm used to. And I was sold to. You're sold to. I knew what I wanted to hear when industry was coming in and pitching me. And my job was to be, as I say, an advocate for the unique capability that a company indicated, or at least said, this is what we do. Too often it's, we're better than the other product, or here's what we can do. Well, I was a Fed saying, yes, we have a lot of taxpayer money to invest in companies like yours, but help me understand what makes you special. And that's what I would, every day of the week and twice on Sunday, try to understand. And too often it wasn't crystallized for me. So I found myself doing a lot of the homework. So for me, it's, if I could snap my fingers, what I like to talk about in my consulting advisory, whether it's to an investor or to a beltway service provider or to an entrepreneur or to my parents, my father, when he was around, again, he looks down on me now, but my mom today, that's the barometer for me. I want to be able to be a Greek army knife, and that I can convey the value to a layperson, or Joe or Joanne Sixpack, as much as I can to, an investor at a hedge fund who's saying, I want to put $1 billion in this next thing. Help me understand why I should care and what it means to me. So I think, in the spirit of open government, being participatory, collaborative, and transparent, that is those tenets. It's incumbent on folks like you and me on the government side to be as smart or as on top of the world that's changing, understanding where in the commercial markets, the owners and operators of sectors like energy, manufacturing, transportation, water, and I don't mean the agencies, are doing things to make our cars safer, our air cleaner, our water more drinkable, and that sort of thing. And for me, there was a point in time where I was all about the geekiness. And when I would look in the crowd and see that, who are these people? Who's my audience? It was then that I realized, could I tell a story about blockchain or quantum computing or cloud computing or data protection or zero trust architecture to the average person? And that's what really motivates me, because I want to do that. Maybe it's the academic side of me that work with the national labs. But I think today, the pivot for me was, it's not about how much I know, it's how is that technology going to support at the departments I worked at, the mission. And that's when I realized sometimes I didn't even really know the mission of my agency. I was too busy meeting compliance and governance and all the stuff you know very well that matters to the government officials on the executive branch, on legislative. But I started thinking, is the workforce being retained, reskilled, and recruited? Do I need to do a better job mentoring staff, hiring staff? And that's what's brought me to today. I want to make technology interesting to people so that it makes sense to them and the application in their life. Just like when we say, do you know my mission? How will your product support my mission at the Department of? There are 450 plus agencies in the government, Jeremy. You hear me say this all the time. How are you selling your product the same way to each of those agencies? Well, you shouldn't.
Right.
And if you are, I hope you did your homework. So I think that from an IT standpoint, we're all technologists today. And you really have to, as a sales marketer, BD, C-level, be in touch with who you're selling to. It's not buy, sell, it's seek, solve. It's a partnership.
Yeah. So I mean, what I'm hearing, and I'm kind of regurgitating in a different way, is we have some significant challenges in how we operate within government when we're trying to find the solutions. I mean, I would say, I've been in government for quite some time. I've run into numerous roadblocks with my contracting office, trying to get them to understand that it is about not just are they checking the right boxes and meeting the right capabilities and feature statements, but how is it that they care, that the company's going to care about my mission, right? How is it the company's going to leverage all those capabilities and features to better our mission, right? That's really hard to do in the way federal contracting is done.
Well, I think that's where the contracting officials, the chief financial officers, the chief data officers, the chief risk officers, the chief information officers, a lot of chiefs. I dig it. I get it. But what I call that tapestry that needs to be woven through, what a chief procurement official or an acquisition official cares about, just like a CIO, is pretty surgical.
Right.
But somebody in there, and I found that to be my role in government, Jeremy. I was the guy knocking on doors saying, hey, I was a convener. I was the connective tissue officer. I feel like my job was to help industry do a better job at times, or more efficient job or effective job selling into, so I could be their in-house consultant advocate, as I like to think of it, so that my colleagues in government wouldn't say, I don't have time for another pitch from somebody. And I'd say, well, why is that? Do you not have time? We should maybe coordinate a pitch day. And that's what led me to creating some of the venues I did as a Fed, which was bring people together and teach, so that, as I call it, the simpatico that needs to exist between government and industry. There's $90 billion a year coming into and going out of this. Do you know my mission? What's the outcome? What's the ROI? I think those are questions that are fair, and it's not just industry's responsibility to be able to convey. Are the federal employees the active listeners and actually spending time each week saying, I have to make time to hear what industry's doing, because I should be incentivized to invest those tax dollars wisely. So that's a dynamic I've seen post-government. But while I was there, I think I knew internally that if I ever leave, I want to be that bridge. I want to be some sort of a conduit, because I don't want to sell. I'm never going to make software. Never say never. I'm never going to, there I go again. I'm probably not going to own some product worth something that is going to be who I am. But people need, in the spirit of, the tipping point connectors in this world. You're doing it right now. So
yeah,
that's sort of who I am at the moment.
All right. So that's the moment. Where do you see yourself going in the future? So, you've got Dots and Bridges. Where do you see Dots and Bridges going? Where do you see the work you're trying to accomplish there? Where are we heading into the future? What's that roadmap look for you?
I love it. The roadmap. Well, it's the epiphany moments that every entrepreneur has. when I left government, it was winging a prayer, man. I'll never forget. I tell the story of my first day on the job. I went home and I realized I made no money today. And while I had all the confidence in the world, reading books like The Tipping Point and Entrepreneur Roller Coaster, it came clear to me that, hey, if it was easy, everybody would do it. And for me, almost 6 years now, I've seen the evolution of, I had to learn how to, there's some great companies I've worked for. I mean, you can read about all that I've done here, there, and everywhere on LinkedIn, but every stop along the way has been an experience. And just like in government, 25 years, I had many jobs and many roles and different titles. It was never the same. And this journey's been one where I might have started out figuring out how to consult. Then it was build a website, but not until I really know what I'm selling, come up with a logo. Wife gets all the credit for that. Betsy came up with Dots and Bridges. My brother-in-law, a great company up in Pittsburgh called 321 Blink, Aspinwall specifically, came up with it. So shout out to them. I wanted to, at some point, say, while I can consult, what am I doing? I'm helping teach. I'm helping educate. I'm helping mentor. And if I could do some technology due diligence, if I can expand beyond the Beltway, work with the national laboratories like I did for so many years to learn about where's the early stage tech being built and for what purpose, to cure cancer, to make food safer, to use satellites in ways we wouldn't think about. It was storytelling. And I talk about storytelling and translation. And so I created, as I think you know, a thing I call the Thought Leadership Consortium. And it's the intimate dialogue with folks that I feel like I can ask over others because I know what it's like to be in those shoes, but also stay independent minded. James Lipton, Anthony Bourdain, Tim Russert, folks I never met who are up there with my dad, have influenced me. I love interviewing. I love the conversation. But I also help and understand companies know that I'm here to help you drive revenue, add value. And that's, for me, what is reassuring, and that I made a good choice. I'm just banking on this and the people I know. And for all those of you out there who think that Rolodexes dry up, well, if they do, that's on the individual. Mine has exponentially grown because every day I get up and I can't wait to meet somebody new. Next page, though, next chapter. Yes, I'm building my media, my call it, maybe one day I will end up with a show or be the guy on MSNBC or somewhere that says, here's Tseronis giving us the breakdown of why this matters, this tech. And smart cities, smart communities, the impact of technology on the 16 critical infrastructures in our country to support and afford what, again, I call societal and economic value to us as residents and citizens is my passion. And if that's through consulting or interviewing people, or as you do, get into the humanity component, tech, humanity, culture, they're all intertwined. Man, that's like a joy. I just gotta continue to figure out how to pay the bills and do that, right. That passion and monetize it.
Well, Pete, thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast and just filling us. I mean, you're a guy who brings excitement, so I love talking to you, and so I look forward to future conversations with you.
Jeremy, thank you, and keep doing what you're doing, man. I'm fired up to know you, and we'll do some good stuff together. I'm going to interview you next.
Sounds good.
All right, pal.